In this video, we are going to do some live coding. We're going to work on our calendar UI, building a marker that marks the current time of the day. And if you saw my previous video, we dove into an overview of the code. It's a Ruby on Rails application. It uses Phlex, it uses Tailwind, it uses Alpine. Today's video, we're not going to have any Alpine, but we are going to be working with Phlex and Tailwind. So let's look at the current state of the calendar UI. Right now, we have this marker right here showing what the current time of the day is. And we've gotten some user feedback that that's a little bit confusing. It's not obvious what it's for, and that maybe it should stretch across the entire calendar. And this matches up with what Apple Calendar does. In Apple Calendar, we've got the time of day marker going across the entire calendar and the current time over here on the left edge. And I think this makes a lot of sense. So we're going to take the same approach in our calendar. So as we look at our Flex component, we have a calendar column method that obviously renders each of those columns you see in the calendar. And within there, we render our current time marker if the current day is today. And if we dive into that current time marker, see that it's just a couple of divs. We are using the outer div to position it, and then the inner div to give it to style that clock icon. Now we want to get rid of the clock icon, and we want to stretch this marker across the full calendar. So the first thing we'll do is try to stretch this thing across the full calendar. Now, as I said, right now we are rendering the current time marker within a column, and we don't want it rendered within the column anymore. We need to lift it up a little bit. So let's just copy this out of here. And then let's look at where we're rendering calendar column. We're rendering that within the calendar body. So we could just throw it in here. We don't want it inside this div because this is our Flex container that's divided vertically for each day of the week. But we can throw it right below here. We don't need this if anymore because it's only going to render once. It doesn't matter what day of the week it currently is. Let's take a look at how that renders. So I'm going to refresh here and we get an error. Right. We are still passing now to it, which doesn't exist anymore. Actually, it should though. For right now, let's just pass time.current.utc, which is what was previously now. Let's undo that. Let's find, here's our previous place where we were setting now. And the reason we were doing that was just because previously, our current time marker had an if that was also looking at now. But for now, let's just do this. We'll just set this instance variable right above here. We can always clean it up later if that's the only place we need it. And now we are not seeing it at all. So let's look in here. Let's inspect some of these things. Okay, so we can see this is our Flex container, and just below it we have our marker here, but it's not where we expect it to be, and it's because our container, we're positioning it absolute, but our container is not relative. So let's fix that. Our container here needs to be relative. If we refresh, okay, we've got our marker stretching across the whole calendar. That's great. Let's get rid of the clock. All right, the clock is gone. We've got a line stretching across. Now we need to start thinking about displaying the current time on the left edge of the calendar where we currently have the times of day. Now, right now we have this marker inside of our calendar body container. And that container has overflow hidden, which means we're not going to be able to stick the time in here. We need to either lift this up another level, or we'll need to render the time separately. So let's take a look at both of these approaches. If we were to lift this up, I'm going to go into the code for this. So our current time marker, currently in the calendar body, if we take a look at where calendar body is rendered, we're in our grid. So this is, if you watched the previous video, we kind of walked through the grid setup here. In fact, let's look at the grid in the browser. That might be a little bit easier here. As I hover over the grid in DevTools, you can see the grid showing in the UI. So we've basically got a 2x2 grid, not very complicated at all. And in the second row, we have our time of day labels and then the calendar body. So we need this marker to take the full width of the grid. And we need it to be absolutely positioned based on the current time. And that's going to be kind of a problem if we lift this up to the same level as the grid, because the top row of the grid, where the day of week labels are, it doesn't have a fixed height. That's based on the size of the text and the padding that we've set in there. And if we change any of that stuff, I don't want that to mess up the time of day. So I don't think lifting up the time marker to a higher level is the way I want to go here. I actually think I want to keep the line where it is currently and add a label separately that is positioned in kind of the same way. So back here in our grid, we can see that column where we have our time labels. That's basically the same. We want our current time label to exist within that same column. So what I'm going to do is wrap this in a div. Move this up into there and add a current time label method. We'll put that right underneath our current time marker method. And actually, we'll pass it a time as well, just to be consistent there. Now, position-wise, we want it to be very similar to this. We're going to move it down based on the current time of day, setting the top to an absolute percentage based on the time of day. The same way we did that. What's going to be different is I don't think we need this flex stuff. We don't need this height or width full. We just want it to be absolute. Let's give it a background, the same background, so we can see it there. And then within this, we're just going to stick the time. So, and I cannot quite remember what this is. Let's try that. Let's see what we've got. Oh, wait, we never passed now to it. Let's fix that current time label. We'll remove this duplication in a minute, but for now, let's just get that working. All right, we have broken some stuff. All right, our position is messed up again. We're probably missing a relative positioning again. And we have screwed up our time axis. So first of all, let's add our position relative to the container. And then if we look at our time labels, we can see that, we're giving a width. This flex none, it's no longer in a flex container. We actually want this to be lifted up. Actually, I don't even think we needed that flex none at all. It lives within a grid now. It's not even within flex. That flex none was not doing anything. I think our actual issue is because these time labels are absolutely positioned, they don't take any height. We actually need to tell this, since this div is no longer the grid cell, it's something within the grid cell, we actually need to tell it to have its full height. Otherwise, it's not going to have any height at all because everything within it is absolutely positioned. All right, we're getting somewhere. It looks ugly, but we do have the label. It is positioned based on the current time. That's great. Let's do some styling work on this. So I know that I wanted to have like a bubble look to it. So we're going to give it rounded full to round those edges completely. I want the text to be white. I want the text to be smaller, quite small actually. Let's see where we're at. We're getting there. First of all, we need it to hug the right edge. So it's already absolutely positioned. We just need to tell it to right 0. Now I want to give it a little bit of padding on the right and left. Let's see if 1 is enough. Maybe 1 more. Actually, I want the text to be smaller too. I'm going to say, give it a bit more padding on the sides, and I actually meant that to be extra small. I like the look of that. Obviously, we've got a problem where the position is offset. It's the top of this element that's aligned based on the current time, and we want the middle, the vertical middle of the element to be aligned with the current time. And the best way I know to do that, since we're using absolute positioning to push it down based on the time of day, we want to pull it back up based on half of the height of the element. The best way I know to do that is using a transform. And Tailwind, of course, gives us helpers for this. We're going to use a negative translate y 1/2. So we are translating it along the y-axis upward 1/2 of its height. Let's see what that looks like. That looks really good. I would say close, but not quite there. It's offset just a little bit. And I think I can accentuate the way it's offset. The line that's going across here is just a div with a little bit of height to it. And if we give it even more height, so right now I've given it a height of 2 pixels. What if I give it a height of 12 pixels? So now we can kind of see like that looks terrible. It's definitely offset a bit. So I think the time label is actually right. It's the line that's offset a little bit because it's the same issue that we had with the label where the top of the element is positioned based on the current time, but then the element has some height to it, and we want it to be the vertical middle of it to be positioned based on the current time. So we are going to do the same thing that we did with the negative translate. And there, now that's better. Now we can bring the height of this back down. That's perfect. Now we've got it perfectly aligned together. One little problem we've got, if you can see it, is that this border of the calendar is actually sitting on top of this line, or rather, this line is not extending past the border of the calendar because we have this line sitting within the calendar body, and the calendar body has a border all the way around it. So what I want to do is lift that marker up one more level. So this current time marker we currently have within the calendar body, I actually want to lift it up to where we have the calendar body, which is actually back up in our grid, which is perfect. So here, if I can type, I want to move this up into here. I have an extra end. Okay. All I've done is I've moved the current time marker into this grid cell alongside our calendar body. And again, this current time marker is absolutely positioned, so I know this needs to be relative. see what that looks like. That looks better. Now, if we can actually zoom in here and see that this line now extends over that border and touches the bubble label thing, which is exactly what we want. That looks really good. Let's look back at our code, because I think we've left a bit of a mess with this. We are declaring the time in a couple different places. Let's just lift up this now to the beginning of this method. And then we can use it here as well. So this is great because now we can see the current time label and the current time marker. They're sort of at the same level. They're related bits of functionality. So that's nice to see. Make sure we're still good here. And we are. One other thing that I think would be nice to have is if we also highlighted the current day of the week. So let's look at where we're doing that right now. We have this day of week labels method. And if we jump into that, we can see we're just going through a constant, and we've got a Phlex container where each item has the exact same width via Phlex 1, and we're just sticking the day in there. If we want to make this, we want to do something special for the current day. Again, we're going to want to pass the current time into it, just so we're only doing that in one place. Now, as we're iterating through these days are just strings of the actual names of the days of the week. But this is an array, and if we each with index in it, now the index is basically the W day value for the week. So we could do something like, let's just say if the index is today, let's just say today, just to see if the logic actually works the way I think it should. And it is. Today is Monday when I'm recording this. And so it says today there. What I want to do is give it a style that's similar to this with like a green bubble. So let's extract some of those styles into a constant. So we want to go back to the current time label. And I want the padding, I want the background, I want the rounded, I want the text. Yes, I want all of those things. I'm going to put them into a constant that I'll call current time style. Sure. Sorry, I should not have broken anything with that. Okay, everything is fine. Let's then go to the day of week labels method where we added this today. So in both cases, we want to display the same day abbreviation. I'm just going to extract that into a local variable here. And for today, we just want to wrap this in a span with that styling that we just moved into a constant. So span with the class equals current time style. Perfect. Put that in our day abbreviation. Let's see what we've got here. That looks pretty good, actually. Yeah, I think I'm in a place where I'm ready to call this done. So that's all for today. Let me know what you think. Put some comments in here. Reply to me on social media. I want to know, do you want to see more live coding like this? Did you enjoy more of the overview video like I did last time? Or what else would you like to see? I'm really just getting started on this channel. I'm having fun making videos. I want to make a lot more. So let me know what you want to see. All right. See you next time.